As cliche as it sounds, the eclipse portal is opening, and that is this full blood moon, total lunar eclipse occurring in the sign of Virgo on the 14th of the month of March, 15th as well. Depends on your time zone. And this is not just an eclipse of the moon in Virgo, but this is an eclipse that will have a dramatic effect on the world. It will have a massive impact on the war in the Middle East, a very significant impact on the leadership of the United States of America. It's also an eclipse that brings each of us a chance to complete something, fulfill it, but also in a destined way that we began to enact in our lives in September when we had an ordinary, boring, everyday new moon in Virgo. And so that September 2nd new moon is becoming fruited, full, and making a massive destined shift in each of our lives as it comes into an eclipse, as the moon will turn blood red. And we're going to talk about how this eerie red moon eclipse may look for you in your sky. And we're going to talk about your sun, moon, and rising. You can listen for all three. When it comes to eclipses, I find it's best to listen for your rising sign because this is a nodal transit through Pisces and Virgo for the next 18 months. It means a destined node of change, axes of your natal chart from the rising sign in particular. In fact, if you would like to check out how to cast your chart in whole sign houses and find your rising sign, you'll need your birth time. I have a free video tutorial in my description box below. Just scroll all the way down past that more button and you'll find it. I can also suggest to you that whole sign houses is the way to go in understanding basic astrology on YouTube. So don't get too confused about your Placidus chart. But the thing about this eclipse that happens to be occurring in Virgo at the 23rd degree is that it's also part of a pattern of eclipses that are similar, south node, let go, release, surrender energy in Virgo, to the kind of eclipses that were moving through our sky in the past. In this case, back in 2006, midsummer through to 2008. Most particularly, this eclipse resonates with the spring of 2007. A lot of you know that built up to the subprime loan scandal and the tanking of the housing market and in a recession in North America and the world. So hopefully we don't repeat that pattern in 2025, 6, but it's possible. I also want to mention something else here. I want to talk about when you're listening to astrology, it is general astrology. This is like for a whole sign. It's like saying, everybody born with red hair, this is what's going to happen to you. So don't forget, your natal chart is so specific, so unique to you. And this is where it might be useful to come into contact with an astrologer who can help you navigate the wave of destined change that eclipses are bringing through the whole sign Virgo and whole sign Pisces part of your 12 Pisces slices of your natal chart. Now, I want to talk about world events and then I'm going to do your sign. This is called mundane astrology. And by the way, I didn't say hello. I'm Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac. Whole sign houses, fixed stars, and minor asteroids are my cup of tea. And if you like this kind of astrology where we both do predictive content and then also individual all signs on the second half with timestamps in the description box below, like chapters, click the title of the video, jump to your sign, or go to the pinned comments, check your sign and click ahead, then you're in the right place. We're doing world astrology for those who care about it, and we're doing personal astrology for those who care about it. I did have a false attempt to start a dedicated Wednesday called What in the World Wednesdays to world events. It was so bad on the algorithm, like 68% less views and that kind of thing, that it really over time is like a toxic spill in the algorithm here. And YouTube doesn't like that. Okay. So that eventually will subdue my channel's growth. So now I'm going back to putting the world astrology in the beginnings of these videos. Let's go ahead. Anything I want to share with you guys? When will you get this video? I'm recording on Sunday, the 23rd for my Patreon community. You're getting it on Thursday. 2 days after this comes out, on Saturday, March the 1st, I'm doing a Venus retrograde 6-week live class, 3 Q&As every second week, a Facebook group, a collaging party. It's going to be fun. It's going to be engaging. And we're going to navigate the Venus retrograde together. If you check the description box below and you want to sign up, the information is there in the description box, and I'll try to remember to pin it to the comments. You can probably start late. I may keep the doors open. If you miss one class, sure. But if you miss six classes, if you miss the second class, no. Replays are available, so you don't have to be there live to catch what's going on. All right, so that's how I feel about this eclipse. Let me give you the lay of the land, first of all, just you and me. Let's just talk. You and me, let's just talk, okay? Before I show you the chart and talk about the world, you and me, let's just talk. There's a really interesting element called Uranus on the star Algol. that's getting tangled up in this eclipse, because this eclipse is going to be at the 23rd degree and 56 minutes of Virgo, and that will make it angle in a sextile or a trine from the moon and a sextile from the sun, creating a wedge formation to Uranus. You got a shock and awe and unexpected events in the sign of the earth. You know, I remember that Tapestry by Carole King. I feel the earth move under my feet. I'm expecting, unfortunately, earthquakes coming off of our recent Leo moon squaring Uranus, and this doesn't help at all either. Okay, this does not add anything positive to that energy. Second thing that I'm not too fond of is potential stock market turbulence off of this blood moon red Virgo eclipse as a possibility as well. Now, it could also be illness or health issues as well with Taurus things, the health of bulls or cows or something, you know, hopefully not. Now, you know, one of the things I would also mention about this is that we have a little minor asteroid called Urania who tracks really well with UFO sightings, like really well, and UFO waves and disclosures and stuff like that. And Urania is getting tangled up in this as well. And therefore, there's a shock and awe Urania, the muse of astronomy and astrology, but astronomy meaning outer space. And this asteroid is also in a wedge formation to the moon and the sun, creating a positive but electric charge of something that could also show up here, because all full moons are revealing, and a blood moon eclipse is revealing under the eerie red light of the blood moon what was not seen or known. And it can also be about completions and endings. When I talk about completions and endings, I'm particularly concerned about two people and two governments. You have Lebanon, Israel. I'm not concerned about it, but Lebanon, Israel, and of course, the leadership of the United States, which is Donald Trump, because he's the president, but even the party that's in leadership, just the idea of the US leadership. And that's for several reasons. And I'll show you the charts of why I think this, but this is going to bring a return to shock and awe and unexpected elements. So we're not too fond of when it comes to Lebanon, Israel, Middle East stories, Netanyahu, etc. Now, let me say one thing. This is a blood moon eclipse directly on the midheaven or the high noon or the career and reputation point of Benjamin Netanyahu, exactly up there. He's got a nearby Saturn up there, so he's got his midheaven up there. He's got a Saturn in Virgo in his 10th house. Yeah, it'll come back to me. We'll show you his chart. And he also has the asteroid Hephaestus, the forge smith of the weapons of Zeus, right? The thunderbolts that Zeus used, the gods used weapons. Hephaestus forged them. Iron swords, right? The name of the geocide. Well, basically, it's in his destiny to throw drones and missiles and weapons and ordinances at somebody. It's in on his midheaven. As much as you may not like him, who could, it is a part of the narrative. This is my channel. I'll talk about it any way I want. I'm with 90% of the world who think what's happened in the Middle East is a travesty and a tragedy and a war crime. So that why I'm bringing that up is because for him, for this particular world leader, this is a devastating lunar eclipse, and it's going to track back to events in September and in the aftermath of that. So in November, I think around the 24th of November 2024, ICCJ, the IC International Criminal Court, issued an arrest warrant for him and his sidekick Gallant and as war criminals. So that happened a couple of months after September 2nd's new moon. And a new moon isn't about what happens the day of that new moon or even the week or month after. It's what unfolds over the 6 months that happen from the seeds of a new moon to the full moon. So there's a culminating, intense blood moon destiny eclipse on his career and reputation that connects to the arrest warrant naming him as a war criminal. The nation of Lebanon is unfortunately a Virgo rising. South node transits through the rising sign of Lebanon have historically led to parts of this time every 18 years where they have had civil war or regime changes initiated on them by, you know what, the good old hegemony of the United States unipolar world, but also where they've had conflicts with their nation next to them, Israel nearby. And what happened in September, if you might remember, regarding Lebanon, were two things or three. The Hezbollah pagers exploding. Remember that extraordinarily awful, grisly story of people's pockets and blowing pagers and, losing their pelvic, organs and whatever else happened, or children near the pagers. It was not good. But the exploding pagers happened. But also there were massive riots in Israel to stop the war and get the hostages back, because 6 hostages' bodies had been found in the rubble or whatever in Gaza, I suppose. And then the other thing that was happening in September, and I'm tying it to the new moon as it relates to Israel, Lebanon, Netanyahu. The other thing that happened in September was Israel bombed the S out of Lebanon. Okay, not just the pagers already. So basically, on September 17th or so, where the pagers exploding. Oh, that's so clever, so James Bond. And on September 20th, Israel launched an air attack that leveled a whole apartment building in a suburb of Beirut, and it killed 45 people, including 6 Hezbollah militants. But it's the whole idea that these civilians were just in their own apartment building, including children. And Israel, launched a weapon into a sovereign nation that wasn't technically at war with them. So there is this whole return to the intensity around Lebanon that we will see up to a month before this eclipse. The eclipse is, let's say, the 14th of March. So by middle of February, we should see some building of these tensions. For Netanyahu, I don't know how an eclipse on top of his midheaven, especially a blood moon red, total lunar eclipse, will look good on him. There's going to be a major destined change in his position. He may step down from power. He may be taken out of power. He may be unalived to get out of power. Something is like this will befall him when anywhere from a month before this mid March eclipse up to 8 months after. Now, his stature in the world, his reputation, and his position as a leader are all connected to that Virgo midheaven. And that is an eclipse of his stature, an eclipse of his reputation. And full moons often indicate completions and endings. So, and it's intense. So those are some world stories for those of you interested in that kind of material. Now, I'm also going to gently mention the United States, and do not troll me. I'm Canadian. I'm progressive. I'm fiscally conservative and socially progressive, and I'm a centrist basically, and I live in Canada, and I don't vote in the United States. All of those disclaimers said. The party in power in the Sibley chart, okay, the one who's like got all the mojo to go, is always Virgo. It's the 10th house of the Sibley chart. The United States is a Sag rising. Virgo is the 10th house. Pisces is the 4th house. The 4th house represents the party in opposition. That's the Democrats. And the Republicans are now in the Virgo top of the sky. And that's where the Donald Trump thing is, executive power. It's all up there in Virgo. There is an eclipse in Virgo. It will impact the leadership and the government of the United States. It is a south node eclipse. It's about loss and letting go. It's about difficulty. It's about surrender. There is a Sabian symbol. It is 20. You round up to 23 degrees and change, which, by the way, is number 16. 23 plus 56 is a 16. That's a tower card in the tarot, shock and awe. And this is an eclipse that's in communion with the corpses of Algol on the star Algol. So there's going to be some dark and dastardly deeds going on. But in Donald Trump's chart, this is connecting to his 2nd house, 8th house axis. And that is not a great place for him, because there is in Indian astrology a insinuation of the 2nd house being one of the more difficult houses connected to death. And in modern and tropical astrology, the 8th house is also called the house of death. And so on an axis of great difficulty that could lead to the word death or unaliving, Donald Trump is having also this blood moon eclipse. And it's possible because the moon is happening in the house of speech, his 2nd house, because he's a Leo rising, 29 degrees with asteroid Apollo in America on his ascendant, on the star Little King, born to rule, power, fame, and glory. That the 2nd house means when you speak. And so it's possible there will be another unaliving attempt on him. The Ides of March into April are been bothering me for a long time. The Uranus is going back over his midheaven, where it was back when he was almost unalived and something clipped his ear in July. That's back again in the 3rd week of March. And this eclipse is not particularly auspicious for him as well. And Mars is traveling through the house of hospitals during this eclipse. And so then again, what could possibly be going on? He may be almost unalived. Maybe he won't be unalived, but maybe he won't be in any shape to be in charge, because he might end up in a coma. So there you go. And so that's what I've got for you. That this is all in the sky. I'm sorry, I'm not hating on the president of the country next door to us at all. I am pretty neutral about politics in general. I don't like geocides, and that makes me very unneutral. But I am pretty neutral about Western politics. So unfortunately, this does not bode well for the holding of power. And then for J.D. Vance, his midheaven is also connected to this eclipse. Both Trump's midheaven and J.D. Vance's midheaven are in the crosshairs of this eclipse, in the sense that Algol, the star of Algol, Uranus, the planet of erratic, sudden, and shocking change, is in a sextile to this eclipse. Both J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are Leo risings. They both have their midheaven in Taurus. Okay, so both of them are having major changes. I doubt anyone's going to unalive J.D. Vance. If they're going to target someone, it's not probably him. So, then he gets this jolt to his midheaven, because what does he do? He now has to take over a new position of power. Baron Trump has a sun at 29 degrees of Pisces in his first house. He's a Pisces rising. This is going to hit him in the seventh house of significant relationships, and it's going to activate the sun, which represents father. All said and done, this eclipse looks really dastardly for the current president of the United States. In that sense, I wish nobody harm. And at this point, I'm sending, good blessings to all. Now, let's go ahead and look at the chart and do your sign. Did I forget anything I wanted to talk about this eclipse? Lebanon, Middle East? No, those are the big things. Oh, I know what it was. In September, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on September 10th had their debate. And that is very much a very pivotal month that came off of the new moon in September. It was, a debate that inevitably led to a win for Donald Trump. I mean, it was a pivot point in his rise to power, the televised debate. And therefore, it is a bookend to September's debate in the United States between the candidates for the presidency that is now coming to a fulfilling, concluding, destined change energy on a blood moon eclipse. And I know someone's gonna say, what about Harris? Well, that happens to be down where her Venus and Virgo fallen in her fourth house is. Who knows what that means for her? There was a erratic Uranian fueled Aquarius new moon around the time of the DNC. And it didn't look good because it was on her Saturn. And I've been like, that's not good for her. And that is not going to look good on her. And I should have kept with that, because that's the Uranian energy right on Saturn, which represents, with Saturn transiting her 10th right now in real time, it represents her escalation to a new level of authority or mastery in her career field. And the erratic energy of Uranus meant unexpected surprises and things not going as planned. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's do the astrology by looking at your sign, sun, moon, and rising. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because when you do that, it helps my channel grow. And when it helps the channel grow, I am feeling motivated to make more videos for you guys. So, and everything about me, my Patreon community, my Substack, it's all in the description box underneath the video. Let's get to 200,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. I just crossed the mark early February into 100,000 plus. Now let's see if I'm looking at the chart. Yes. When you're listening for how this portal of eclipse energy is going to play out through your sign, I want you to listen. I don't know why that's in there. That's the Libra 0 point, the world axis. Do not need that in the sky. For some reason, it's in there. I want you to put Volcano in there, see what he's up to. I forgot to mention something when I was doing the world astrology without the chart. Grieve, the asteroid Grieve is here. Sorry, guys. And the Sabian symbol is Mary with a lamb, a white lamb. Well, that's a sacrificial lamb. And I've said for a long time, because Donald Trump has Apollo on his ascendant. Apollo, the sun god, is connected to the Christ archetype. I'm not going to explain the esoterica of it. And of course, Jesus was a martyr, sacrificed on the cross. And so savior, martyr. Remember the QAnon movement? People look for Donald Trump to be a savior. Now he's got Apollo on his ascendant, makes him prone to this. The sun god on his ascendant with the asteroid America. So the other side of being the savior is to be the martyr. Mary with the lamb is sitting, white lamb is sitting on the Sabian symbol of 24 degrees of Virgo. And so again, not too auspicious, right? And this is the asteroid Grieve right there. Just for simplicity, let's move the chart to this rising sign of the United States and then Donald Trump, just so you understand the vibration of what I'm trying to show you. Well, it would help if I moved in the right direction. Okay, so I'm having a little slowdown on my computer, buying a new one on Monday. So patience, everyone. So this is the United States, just a Sag rising. Netanyahu's a Sag rising, by the way. So here we have, and so was Biden. Oh, he's still around, but So here we have the South Node of letting go in the 10th house of career of Biden, or the United States Sibley natal chart leaders and leadership, blood moon eclipse, surrender, let go, revelation, completion, sacrifice and martyr, lamb and Mary. But also, this is the asteroid Grieve. And grieve means grief. It's grieving. So why is there asteroid for grieving or funerals, or maybe in this case, a public grieving of a public figure that will fall from the end of this? Now, I don't know who would grieve the war criminal in the Middle East, but maybe some people would. So, but also the power of the leader, house of the leader of the United States, that's not too auspicious for the leader of the United States. Now, also asteroid Grieve, when I look at Leo rising, it's a second house. Remember, I told you the second house can be a difficult house connected to death and loss. So it is also connected to that for Donald Trump. That is his second house. So it's also JD Vance's second house. And this is Donald Trump's 8th house of death over here, right? Which is the 4th house of the United States of America. It's also the house of speech. Donald gets up and does a speech. You never know, right? And it activates an axis of peril. And this is Uranus, as I mentioned before. Now, Uranus is at 24 degrees. That's basically on Donald Trump's ascendant all through March. Not auspicious because it has correlated in the past to attempts on his life. Mars is in his 8th house of hospitals, where Saturn is. Saturn is a malefic. So he's got Saturn and Venus in his Western tropical house here. Ugh. Hang on. So it looks to me like he's in harm's way with a fallen Mars going over his Venus Saturn area in the house of hospitals, squaring. What am I saying? Well, Uranus is going over his midheaven. So it's a sextile, but it's still Mars in a difficult place. Again, I have a feeling, I've been having it for a long time, that he will be in a health jeopardy situation. All right. A health jeopardy, whether it's caused by an attempt to unalive him, or if it's caused by a health challenge, or if the health challenge that looks like a health problem is really nefarious stealth taking him out. I don't know. He's also prone to poisoning in his chart. So the second house is what he ingests. So poisoning is another problem that he's capable of getting in harm's way from. And let's talk about the asteroid Urania right here. This has been an interesting correlation. I've watched it now every 7 years when Urania goes through the United States of America, Sagittarius rising area. What happens is you end up with a bunch of congressional testimony, UFO disclosures, stuff being released. It happened in 2017. It happened this year in the fall, September through to the end of the year, as Urania traveled through Sagittarius. We see this repeat, and the drone swarms were happening, especially in the United States. So all said and done, that's a pattern I've watched. However, I've also seen major events coming out, like the UFO sighting of 1952 over Washington in July, connected to Urania in the sign of Capricorn. So there's just something going on there too, to Urania, outer space. Think, woo, outer space aliens, other planets, of course, asteroids and comets. Urania is also connected to this storyline because Urania will trine. This is a flowing energy, trine the actual blood moon eclipse. Let's sorry. You probably see it. I don't. The software does this all the time on Zoom. I'm going to change my recording program to something more easy to use. All right. So I see it. Hope you see it. This is Urania. This is the asteroid Urania. This is the actual eclipse. This is the sun. It is a flowing energy of a sextile. However, the problem is, this is the problem. Uranus, the god of shock and awe and earthquakes. Oh my God. If you don't mind, well, I just have a computer tech issue meltdown. Okay, Christies. Okay. Okay, Urania is squaring Uranus. I don't know what it means. I really don't. There is volcano, like a volcano erupting in Leo, or explosive or weaponry energy directed at Pluto, the god of death, in Aquarius. This is the ascendant of Trump and JD Vance. This is the open enemies and opponents. So there's something very intense going on here around that eclipse. But Urania, think outer space, and shock. This could be disclosures. So I will predict that the March 14th full moon eclipse is going to lead to very intense disclosures about unidentified aerial objects, about non-human intelligence and technology, and that not only will we see evidence of that up to a month before the March 14th eclipse, but even up to 6 months after, for all lunar eclipses unfold over 6 months. It is also most likely, given that the lunar eclipses tend to show their hand within 90 days, that means that 90 days after mid-March, we should see evidence of more disclosure. Now, I do believe when JFK was assassinated by its own government, it was because he wasn't going with the program. And when I say the word deep state, I know a friend of mine said that means I'm a conspiracy theorist or I'm a MAGA person. No, obviously somebody was running the government. It wasn't Joe Biden. So if anyone wants to declare his cognitive health allowed, then you need to take a reality check. So there are forces of war that exist between administrations, beyond administrations. It's called the military industrial complex, vested interests, and powers that be. So there's a lot about wars that have nothing to do with you, the people. It has to do with bigger agendas, to do with wealth and power and greed. So, as all wars do, actually. So the war machinery goes on, and when someone wants to contradict the machinery of those in power, all the elected presidents normally are just little puppeteers. And prime ministers and chancellors. But if you go against the plans that are already in play when you get into power, you're likely going to be unalived, like JFK was. So that's a thought. And so unfortunately, this disclosure thing is wonderful for us. I think this is going to be amazing to find out more about what the technology of these non-human entities are, what the shocking, surprising developments will be that we'll see coming off of this blood moon eclipse. Now, you'll notice that it forms a beautiful energy with the moon, and you'll call this a trine, right? So this is where things are good. Did I say square? No, it's a trine. I hope I said that. So this triangle between Uranus, shock and awe and discovery, Urania, outer space, and just the eclipse itself in Virgo, big Earth trine, should be very interesting. Should be very revealing of some sort. And because it's all in land and earth, it could be things like Area 51 or big chunks of military land being disclosed as having, had downed non-human intelligent flight, crafts, in storage, and this kind of stuff might become really public. Also, there'll be more testimony maybe about evidence that the non-human aerial phenomena, or whatever they are, have been able to turn off around the world, Russia, Canada, whatever, USA, nuclear countries. We're not nuclear in Canada. The nuclear weapons in the silos, that's been talked about and disclosed before, I think is coming back on the radar. And so because we have all this earth, it's what's in the ground, under the ground, including silos for missiles that are nuclear. Right. Okay. I think that's what I've got. It's a trine. I'm not worried about that. I actually like it, but just remember that it is about the unexpected. So let's do your sign. I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to go back to the chart. I want to explain how to listen to your sign. You're listening for your sun sign if it's about your purpose and career. And I want you to think of the sun as the essential you, like your core nature. Make it more like, if this is a video game simulation, the game player is the sun. The avatar, the character, or the role you play in the movie is the rising sign. But we live our lives in circumstantial reality, and our character has shit happen to it. So your rising sign is accurate for most people, but your sun is also useful because it's your deeper self, and it's your more truest, purpose-driven, solar, divine self. And the moon can connect you to matters to do with your mother, of course, and sun, your father, but home and your feelings about your life. And in Indian astrology, Vedic astrology, they often say, listen to your moon sign, because it's what you're feeling about the events of your life and how you're receiving them and what your emotional comportment is. But it also very practically, like an eclipse to the moon in your chart, could be a change of home. Okay, so it's that simple. Alrighty, like the Aries eclipse coming up March 29th is on my moon. And when it happened 18 years ago on my moon, I moved my home and I'll move my home again, I'm pretty sure. So let's go ahead. Let's do each sign. I'm looking forward to this. I'm super jazzed. I'm going to go grab a bit of kombucha and then I'll be right back. I think I might just slurp it in front of you guys. And we're going to do all signs on this portal of the Virgo eclipse, full moon, blood red. I almost forgot to show you where you can see this eclipse. And also, I'm a little worried about a California earthquake. I've been talking about this in my 2025 world predictions. And since then, I was in an earthquake in Vancouver. I barely felt it. My daughter called me on it. But this new moon, which is an eclipse, is going to go all the way up the ocean on the side of the United States and Canada, Vancouver, Oregon, Washington, and California. It's literally going right up along parallel this new moon to that part of the sky. It's also clipping through this eclipse energy through Brazil and Greenland. So Greenland, Brazil, and the Pacific coast of North America are all activated by the eclipse energy in terms of the new moon location in astrocartography. But this is where you can see the eclipse most visibly. And that's what I'm going to show you. For those of you, I'm just using dateandtime.com. They're fantastic for this kind of stuff. But you can see the actual, let's make it bigger. It just went away. Okay, why? Why did I lose it? Maybe there we go. That's better. That's good enough. Total lunar eclipse on March 14th, 225. There you can see the lines that could give you a clue about where it is going through our sky. And I'll make it a little bit. Maybe I can make it bigger. Zoom in. But I'm losing because I've got so much mess in here. But you get the gist of it. Even my advertising for my Canadian bank is there. Okay, so you can see that it's a lunar eclipse. It's visible in Greenland. All right, Greenland. And there's Brazil. This is very important. Greenland, Brazil, and also this whole coast is in terms of the astrocartography. The conjunction, the moon is going straight up like this. And it's also going over this part of Brazil into Greenland. So Greenland, Brazil, and the Pacific coast of Canada and the United States will be very much in the news cycle in the month before the March 14th eclipse. And of course, after, with Uranus in an earth sign, as a planet of earth shaking, we're back to the earth shaking issues. I do think the earth shaking is a coastal Pacific massive earthquake that we will expect to see sometime. Take March 14th and give it 2 weeks before, maybe, or 3 weeks before. 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, and up to, a month or two after. I think it's an acute energy. So you can see the lunar eclipse. Don't look at it. Last time I looked at a blood moon lunar eclipse, we call it the booner. I smoked a cigar with my teenage daughter and her girlfriend, watched the eclipse, and our lives fell apart. I'll be doing a little bit more on that. But in the ancient traditions, it's an inauspicious omen to witness an eclipse. You want to wear white. You want to be sattvic. You want to eat healthy. You don't want to leave food out. You want to lay low. You want to listen to chill, burn your sage, but going out and looking at the eclipsing of a full moon, the light is being eclipsed, a portal to something is coming through. You might not want to stare as the demons come through, right? Same with the sun being eclipsed. So if you have any mystical inclinations, tune into yourself. Is it really important to visually watch this eclipse? You do you. I'm not watching them. I stopped watching them after the booner eclipse. After my life went to hell in a handbasket, including my health, after sitting with that eclipse. I ended up with an ocular event, a blood clot in my retina after that eclipse when I watched it. No, not the day after, but within the orb of time that would have been, thou shalt not watch a lunar eclipse or any eclipse because it's inauspicious omens. And the moon represents the left eye and the sun the right, or vice versa. And it was literally the eye, like the moon's eye, that got, I'm lucky I can see. It was a miracle healing. All right. So just a warning. Don't have to look at it. Don't have to see it. Let's go ahead and do each sign. We're starting with Aries. All right. And this says Sagittarius, but just ignore it. We're going to move ourselves back in time and we're going to look at the Aries narrative back in time. So it is in my time zone, roughly like, 1 in the morning, 1:30, 1 1:54 in the morning a.m. on the 14th, and that means it'll be, some time zones it'll be on the 13th. Some, if you live, somewhere else, it could be on the 14th. Your own time zone, adjust for your time zone. Now, I already have a video out about the nodes of fate moving into Virgo and the nodes of fate moving into Pisces. And honestly, you should watch that video. I put it out way too early, probably in December, and it kind of never got attention. I'm going to draw your attention back to the bigger picture video about the themes of 18 months of change and how to compare it to other times in your life. In the meantime, here we have this particular Virgo portal eclipse opening up. And if you are an Aries sun, moon, and rising sign, this is a part of a destined wave of change that will not complete until like mid to end of 2026, that opens up a corridor of shift regarding the work you do in the world. This is like your job. This is your, I go to the office, I work from home. This is my colleagues. These are my employees. This is my day-to-day service in the world. Your sixth house represents that duty, job, drudgery. In the ancient world, it was called the house of slavery as well. Bad fortune, because you had to work, right? You're not a noble sitting around on your throne going, bring me some more cupcakes, please, or some wine. So, the house of labor in mundane charts, the labor market. So you're south noding your labor, you're letting go, you're releasing, you're surrendering something. You might grieve it. You might have a bit of grief for what you have to let go of here. If you have a pet, I have to warn you, South Node, lunar eclipse with the asteroid Grieve in the house of pets. This could be the loss of a pet connected to this eclipse up to a month before, 6 months after. Life happens. I'm not trying to scare you. It's good to know in advance. Love your pet fully before pet doesn't exist anymore. If that happens, that is a possibility here, right? Not a probability. It's not your chart. This is not only Aries, a letting go of work and the work you do and the way you do the work you do, but it's also connected to Mars energy coming off the fourth house, which is very much about slicing through your childhood wounds and shit like that, but also maybe moving. And because the South Node is in a house of rental property and with the blood moon eclipse, and Mars is slicing through, cutting, ending, and severing through the fourth house, you may be changing your rental property. If you are a tenant, you may find a new home. If you're a landlord, a new tenant, that kind of thing. It may be a very important and destined shift in that regard. Because Jupiter is the eyewitness to the eclipse as well, and he's a benefic, we all like Jupiter. He squares the eclipse, but he is able to see it. In some ways, Jupiter might want to propel the change in the work environment in connection to matters to do with the neighbors and neighborhood. Maybe not so much you need to move to Siberia, but you could change your neighborhood and find a different home that way. And Jupiter would bring blessings and changes of neighborhood environments. He also rules the house of foreign lands and visas, and some of you may decide to go off and journey abroad and maybe spend some time living in another country in the 6 months that follows this eclipse. Now, what about the Algol Uranus star? This is a star of wealth in a house of money, and there's a bit of surprise here. It is a flow. It is a sextile to the sun and a trine to the moon. It is an axis of karma, the 6 and 12. There may be some karmatic, some positive surprises that are financially prosperous for you in the connection to this moon. Also, an ability to shockingly suddenly let go of an addiction or food style that doesn't serve you to better your health. Also, of note, there is the energy of making digital borderless income, money from foreign entities and enterprises that involves 12th house matters that the sun is engaged in. And so again, letting go of some day job and making some kind of online business work as Jupiter in the third house. So there's something like that for some of you that may occur as a result of this eclipse. Also, the sixth house has a quality of karmic debt relief and debt relief, like you have a credit card debt. And the South Node is to release and let go. And so there's something about relieving oneself of debts, whether they're karmatic, like a relationship that no longer serves you, or a financial debt could also be released and relieved in a surprising and sudden way, where you can pay down the mortgage or pay off the credit card or something along those lines. Now, the 12th house is the house of expenses, where the North Node has been traveling since January. And some of you may have felt like some of your expenses and expenditures have increased. But I like the Algol, Wealth Star, shock and awe energy in a positive relationship, indicating maybe that there is a turnaround around something to do with money that you're expending, and a shift around releasing debts. New jobs. Yeah. And maybe some new job. Saturn's involved in the 12th house with the sun, ruler of your 10th house of career. South Node is let go of a job, find a new job, get a new direction going for you. And that's what I've got. That's what I got for the Aries. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising. Oh no, I left my kombucha in the kitchen. Okay, there is no way I'm going forward without my kombucha. So only the pleasure-seeking Tauruses, sun, moon, and rising of the universe get to know about my particular kombucha need. Hang in there. I'm coming back, Taurus. I got this. I promise. It's on the way. Lavender kombucha. Every now and then, a girl needs a kombucha break. Okay. I've been recording for a while. Tofino, kombucha, raw organic, blueberry and lavender. I would sponsor kombucha companies, chocolate companies, bracelets, Otter Spirit, 20% off if you buy any of their astrologically correlated jewelry in my description box below. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising. Well, aren't you all Uranian these days? You know, Algol, Uranus, but you've been dealing with Uranus since 2018 May in your sign. And it's about breaking up and jackhammering your fixed ways and your stubbornness and your ways you don't want to change, and like rattling your cage and making you change. So change has been afoot for a lot of years. You're just like busting out of your skin, and changes in your marriage and changes in your home and changes in your career. It's been very changey and unexpected and destabilizing, right? This Taurian energy doesn't like change, or a fixed, stubborn earth sign. I had to bring it up because Uranus is flowing to the eclipse, flowing to your fifth house. And in your fifth house, it is about pregnancy. And if you are of a childbearing age, wow, Uranus, the unexpected in the house of the body, especially for Taurus rising, and a moon in a south node destined, fated pregnancy is a possibility if you are particularly a female, which means you have ovaries with little ovums in them that can make babies. And grieving is here though, too. So I would say that there could also be an eclipsing of something to do with children, where you wanted to do that, but you realize the time isn't right, or something like that. Or grieving some kind of creative or entrepreneurial or pleasurable pursuit that you really wanted to keep in your life, and now you have to let it go, because this is the house of pleasures and joys. And the South Node is what must be released, and the fulfilling of something. Go back to September 2nd, as I said in the intro. Seeds were planted here for releasing and surrendering something that brings pleasure. And with Jupiter squaring from the house of the mouth and the nose, what do you ingest through nose and mouth that isn't good for you? Weed, vape, cigarettes, alcohol, I don't know what else, gluten. Time to release something that's pleasurable but not good for Virgo, your health. Virgo is the sign of health in the fifth house of pleasure. But you may grieve it, because everyone loves a hit of nicotine now and then. I'm a chipper. I've never been addicted, but I sure do love a good cigar. I think I'm going to get myself a cigar. I haven't had a cigar in ages. I'm going to get myself a cigar today. I'm going to treat myself to a cigar. Talk about auto suggestion. Now, I would also give you this advice about this. There is something about this particular full moon that could help you fulfill a natural talent. Like if you have a gift, you've always been good at drawing, painting, singing, decorating, designing, something creative and muse inspired, and you've never given yourself permission to go there. The South Node represents a kind of basket of past life ability and talent. And the moon is shining a light, a glowing, eerie red light on it, saying, look at this. You're good at this. It's flowing to you. Be original, be inventive, give it a try. Go for it, right? Maybe there's some talent that you have and you want to explore it. Why not? This is also the energy of your children that are already here. And therefore, there can be some big letting go in that regard. Maybe a child's moving out of the home. Maybe it's time to disconnect from so much over parenting. South Node, North Node transits through the house of children. When the North Node went through my house of children, I fixated on my daughter for 18 months, went to Montreal to rescue her from challenges she was having in school, and moved my whole life to be a good mama and rescue her. And but South Node is the opposite for Taurus. It's like, okay, my kids got this. I'm not going to hover. I'm not helicoptering. They got this. I got to move away, and I want to move towards my hopes, dreams, and wishes. What do you want to attain in life? What are your real goals? How do you want to expand your career? Because that's your own wishes and dreams are in the 11th house, and the North Node is trying to amplify those. And you could also look at this finally as a releasing and surrendering and a letting go of some matter that connects to an addiction. And the reason I'm bringing that up is Mercury's in the house of addictions and self-undoing with Chiron, the wounded one. And so literally a substance misuse or disuse disorder could be finding its final gasp in this kind of a sky for anyone dealing with that kind of a thing. Entrepreneurial businesses and releasing them. It was fine until it wasn't fine. Mars cuts and severs, particularly in online or brick and mortar business. It's time to let it go. When? A month before, up to 6 months after this eclipse. Oh my God, that's good. That tofino, blueberry, lavender is delicious. It's Canadian. All right. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. Please go watch the video that I'll put in the description box about the axis of nodal shift in Pisces and Virgo that you're into for the next 18 months, because that's the bigger story. But this portal to the Virgo eclipse is opening a door of change, of surrender and letting go of home, your land, your property, your real estate, someone in your home moving away from the home. You letting go of your home, grieving your home as you let go, letting go of a relationship or person in your home, perhaps. And it's time to let it go. Eerie red light of an eclipse revealing to you the why of it. I always find lunar eclipses show us why we're doing it, where solar eclipses don't give a flying F about why. There is an energy of the mother here. This is the house of the mother. There's an eclipse to the moon, which is a mother, and there may be the grieving of a mother, the loss of a mother figure, a grandmother, mother, the loss of a relationship, they're letting go of that relationship, those sorts of things here. Anyway, you did this again. Remember, I told you in the beginning, I should have reminded you all, we're back through this eclipse cycle last seen in 2007, 2008, 6, 7, and 8. And before that, 88, 89. So we've been through these before. This eclipse is also in a square to Jupiter. Jupiter is giving you that song, you don't always get what you want, you get what you need. That's Jupiter. And so he's giving you what you need, and you're going to be lucky because you're getting what you need. And he squares this eclipse while he looks at his own house of significant long-term marriage and relationship. It looks to me like some of you might be letting go of a long-term significant marriage and relationship if that was a cohabitational relationship. Now, the other thing going on here is that you can see that we have the energy of Algol, Uranus, and this is the house of many things: distant foreign shores and lands, distant lands and shores, things to do with commerce and money making through marketing and selling and buying and trading and exporting and importing. It's money made from international foreign marketplaces. And in our modern world, we do that all the time because we have digital income. So there's an explosive, shocking, surprising Algol wealth star growth or change in that money connected to what you've been doing in and from your home. But you might notice as well, of course, that the North Node's expanding your career, expanding your reputation, increasing your success in the visible sky. And Saturn is like the long game. You've been working it, but you've been working it. And, even when you climb up a mountain, Saturn says, and you get to the top of your pile, you got to come back down the other side. Please ask Kamala Harris. She's got Saturn here. She's a Gemini rising. I'm a progressed Gemini sun. I climbed to the top of a mountain in my astrology career over the last 6, 7 years. I want to climb a new mountain. I want to do something different. I want to write. I want to maybe start a new YouTube channel. I'm thinking of starting a new YouTube channel. So there's a thing about the North Node. It'll expand and intensify and amplify your worldly success over the next 18 months in your career, even as you may also come to the close of one and the beginning of another. And that axis of the moon in the 4th and Saturn North Node in the 10th can speak to that as well. Well, you could dream of aliens. You got Urania in your eighth house. I forgot about that guy, but that was really just for the world. Mars is cutting and slicing through the house of work, and he is in a sextile to the whole darn shebang. So you might be definitely changing the way you make your money as well, but it looks like it's a positive change. And as Mercury rules this particular eclipse, what he says in the 11th house, you might be making some changes of your home life, and it may also connect to matters to do with your career gains, social networks, and friendship circles, as well as a sibling one older than you, if you have one, and changes in your home life and home. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising. Of course, all these eclipses happened before. So got to go back in time, go back to 2006 to 8, go back to 88, 89. You're in the back in the cycle of these eclipses until like the end of 26, really. You'll be feeling them, 2026. And the South Node is letting go, releasing, and surrendering things to do with your third house. Now, your third house is the online world, social media, neighbors and neighborhood, a sibling one younger, full moon lunar eclipse with the word grieve. Could mean a grieving over the relationship with the younger sibling, or that, a loss of the friendship, a loss of the relationship, but also that your sibling one younger may be engaging in grief a month before and up to 6 months after. And, it could be something in their life that's going on. This also applies to aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews. When I see a South Node in the third house, it's depleting and releasing and surrendering your travel, your writing projects, your commitment to your online world, your everyday, gathering neighborhood. You might want to let go of that. You might want to change neighborhoods. You notice that the North Node is, of course, propelling you to intensify learning, especially longer learning, mentored, several months long, getting a new degree. Some kind of activation of learning in the ninth house is something that's going to propel you over the next 18 months. And maybe also desire for more travel internationally and all of that, another meaning of the ninth. Having Uranus, the shock and awe in the 11th house, could bring unexpected blessings financially, coming from your career, a sibling one older, matters to do with career gains in general being exhilarating, exciting, etc. The moon is in her joy to the moon in your third house. So she has some dignity here. And so you may also have some breakthroughs in writing projects, pulling through with some greater career gains, and book publishing opening up for you as a Cancer in the sky. Now, for matters to do, some of you, for matters to do with your career, you could get a new job connected to a foreign country that requires travel or even relocation. And this could happen a month before and 6 months after this event. Mercury is the lord of the eclipse. He happens to be hanging in the 10th house, again, showing us that a lot of this change in neighborhood, travel, etc., may relate to career matters. Uranus wants to bring some upswings and some good surprises. And with Jupiter in the house of distant shores and foreign places and marketplaces, again, in some way you may get a new job for an international company or move your work because of a company and have to change your physical neighborhood or location in terms of work matters. Moving on to the next sign. And don't forget, there is my longer nodal, the nodes of change signs, all signs delineation. And it goes through the archetypes of Pisces and Virgo for your sign and what this means for 18 months for you in a destined fated way. Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, you lions and lionesses. Am I recording? Yes, thank God. You are looking at an eclipse in your second house. I'm going to bring us back a day and see if I can get the moon back there. Yeah. So we have an eclipse in your second house. This is your earnings, money, possessions, and resources. Now you could let go of a car, let go of a home, let go of a sofa, letting go, releasing, surrendering a major possession. It's also the money, the earnings, and the financial resources you have. And there's a releasing, surrendering. And I often see people let go of the hustle when this happens, maybe grieving the way you let go, but there's a shocking surprise or unexpected change in your career and money stories that should be positive, and it may allow you to focus more on living off of money that you have for retirement funds, investments, mortgages, spousal support, like allowing for other people's money to support your journey, or the money that is making money, or the money that you share with the bank or the investment or the stock portfolio, like letting those kinds of monies engage you more so that you can change something here about the hustle, and let go of the hustle is what it says. Let go of the need to make so much money. I know everyone needs money. I'm not dismissing that we should have it, but the sky wants you to surrender it a bit. In India, the second house can be family, particularly your self-made family, but family in general. And there may be some letting go of your attachment to some members of your family. I don't know. I think that with, Jupiter witnessing it from the 11th house, he kind of would say in a broad square, well, I'm getting ready. He's out of dignity up there. He wants you to find true, wise, noble, authentic dreams and goals for your life. And from that understanding, then therefore create financial wellness. That's my view on that as he squares that second house. Mercury kind of watches from the 9th house. Again, do you want to go back to school? I think I covered that. No. Do you want to learn something? Do you want to have a teacher, guide, shaman, mentor? Do you want to travel more around the world and heal a wound about feeling stuck in your own country or something? Do you want to go back to school particularly? Mercury loves to learn. He's with Venus up there. He's the Lord of this story. You would go back to school for professional education. If you choose to do that, the eclipse could generate the current for that anytime a month before and up to 6 months after the eclipse of March 13th, 14th. I'm going by day. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, of course, you're in the thick of it. This is happening with you, in you, as you, to you. And you went through this back in mid 2006 to mid 2008, like 1988, 89 into 1990. It's nothing new. You've been here before. The change is asking you to surrender, to let go and release aspects of your identity that don't serve you at the risk and peril of depletion, exhaustion, and health challenges. And you may have to grieve an old identity, because the asteroid grieve on the south node means there's a light that shines on the inside of you, your identity, your way of being in the world, your sense of self and persona, that needs to let go of some old way, some old identity, and expand yourself by engaging others, a marriage partner. If you're a single Virgo, this is not a bad time for a new relationship to blossom a month before and 6 months after, or an increase of the stature of an existing relationship into a new level of commitment. The muse Urania is in your 5th house, and because she's a muse, I'm going to tell you about her, because she's like song, dance, as well as astronomy. She has many other hats, and she's in the house of the muse, the creativity, the enjoyment, the pleasure, the spark of creative energy. And with the muse there flowing to you in this lunar eclipse, a couple of thoughts. The sky might be inviting you to find the spark of true inspiration, joy, enthusiasm, and pleasure. Where in your life have you lost touch with that? And if you have lost touch with it, how can it be sparked back into being? The other element of the story is pregnancy. The moon is full in the sign of your body. The muse is sparking something up in the 5th house of fertility. So again, you could also be unexpectedly pregnant, or unexpectedly be discovering you're going to be a grandparent, with Uranus in the house of grandchildren. But Uranus in Taurus flows to your Urania, and creates a kind of a earth trine that can conceive a baby. So keep careful if you're not planning to be pregnant, Virgo, or if you're going to be an unexpected grandparent. There's nothing you can do about that. Hopefully, anyway, your child's old enough to go about having children. Now, you've got this energy going on here that you're really looking at the idea from Mercury's vantage point. Right. Of looking at how this can also reform your identity by allowing for you to get into more touch with the deep occult mysteries. Are you willing to learn tarot, astrology? Do you want to learn more mysterious tools, human design, meditation, talking to dead people? Mercury loves that stuff in the 8th house. In Firmicus Maternus, I believe he is the advisors, the astrologer priest. He's the only planet that gets good creds in the 8th house. And so you may have had a bit of a wound to that part of your chart. He also speaks to money that belongs to your spouse and you, or to inheritances and stuff like that. And it was not the most obvious thing I'd make of it, but Jupiter in his position in the sky as ruler of the fourth, Mercury in the eighth as ruler of the eclipse. There may be some changes in your life connected to your family of origin that increases your financial success in life, that allows you to follow your creative inspiration a little bit more. What's life if it's not inspired? Like, why be here, right? That's kind of like the robot autopilot mode that's trying to break out here and break down. With Mars in a broad sextile from your 11th house, some of you may have to let go of social groups that are part of your downfall or fall, or friends that are really not your best friend that may cut at you sometimes. And there may be a letting go of some of those friends in the month before and 6 months after this particular eclipse. And yet at the same time, letting go of those friends can help you secure more success with your significant other relationship. It can allow for greater career gains. It can allow for letting go of some of those groups of belonging and friendships, a greater sense of ease in your new skin, because you are definitely letting go of an old identity. So if you hung up with the party crowd, it's time to not do that. Maybe your spouse doesn't like them, or something along those lines. Or maybe you have something going on about wanting to change the way you make money. Jupiter goes direct, is it direct now, since early February through to June 9th. Then we'll go into the career gains house itself. This is a strong indication of a wonderful possibility of a new bounty, greater money coming off of your career. And I only bring that up because the South Node says change your identity. So if your identity's been like, I work hard and make no money, or something like that, it's going to change as well. Libra, sun, moon, and rising. Let me take a kombucha moment and we'll continue. What you got going here is you got a destined eclipse. It takes you back. 2006 to 8, mid 6 to mid 2008, takes you back to 88, 89 into 90. Those are the eclipse energies back then. To surrender, let go of, and release your own self-sabotaging, self-undoing, worst enemy habits and patterns, including substance issues. And that can be anything. Sometimes our worst habits are nothing bad to the rest of the world, but we know that, cheesies, pizza, Haagen-Dazs aren't the greatest self-coping mechanisms, but it could be a real substance as well that you need to let go of, weed or whatever. And what you do alone and how your alone time is no longer so important. The 12th house is isolation and alone, and some grieving in here. Maybe you've been grieving a mother figure, a loss of a mother figure. Maybe you could lose a mother figure with this as well. The loss of a grandmother or grandparent, for example, especially with Saturn in the house of sickness. But you may need to let go of your aloneness and your solitude. If you do have a bit too much of that in your life, the South Node will shine an eerie light into the 12th house. It's a really good lunation because the eclipse says make karmic changes, end the karmic chains that bind you, do the soul work, do the past life regressions, get an ancestral healing, go to a family constellation worker, cut the chains that bind you from your childhood. There's a muse in your childhood right now, the 4th house of the childhood. What inspiration and creative abilities did you leave behind in your childhood? Maybe time to recapture them. I would wonder too. I know that the next 18 months brings greater success in your career and work and improves your health, as the North Node amplifies all matters 6th house and gives you increase there and worldly success. So there is that. And this eclipse is about what you let go of that gets in the way of the health or the worldly success. And it could be letting go of your beliefs in something as well. The 12th house often involves unconscious patterns, unconscious programs are running underneath the surface of our conscious awareness that may, for instance, bind you to something like Saturn in the 6th house works his ass off. He's a slave driver. He's being slave driven, as they say. This is the house of slavery in the ancient world. And he's working really hard. Is he having any fun? He's been feeling this hard work since March of 23. And by February 26, this kind of transit of Saturn through the 6th house can lead to either an increase of your success because you're promoted to a higher level of authority, or a need to get out of a kind of drudgery and burnout in a kind of a job setting. The eclipse can help you navigate that a month before and up to 6 months later. So with Mars transiting your 10th house through to mid-April and having been there September and October, many of you Libras have already thought about quitting your job or cutting back the workload or taking the workaholism out of the work. And so ask yourself if you've accomplished that yet. The eclipse will help you do that. Give it a month before and 6 months after. Finally, Uranus, shock and awe. Saturn, the elder, Moon, family of origin. There's a possibility of an inheritance with this shock and awe, a chunk of money coming your way up to 6 months after the eclipse. Just going to nail it, call it like I see it. Otherwise, maybe a stock takes off or an investment in a foreign company or an investment in a stock from a foreign land. But there could be a bit of a ka-ching in the house of other people's money. This could also include an inheritance coming through from your spouse. Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, is in the house of the spouse or the long-term committed love story person, ruling also was sitting with Venus, who rules the chunk of money. So possibly an elder in your husband or wife's family could also be passing. Sun moon means elder male, for example. So possibly those are stories going on through the sky for you as well. I think of Saturn, I think of grandparent, but some of you might have a parent that's much older, like, had you when they were in their 40s or 50s. And so it could be an elder parent as well. All right, let's keep on going. I'm going to get through this, baby. I didn't even have a chocolate break, Libras. I didn't even have a chocolate break. Don't forget, guys, I did a video on the nodal axis already. It's already out there. It's like a deep dive into the nodes, destined wave of change through Virgo and Pisces for your sign. That's a very important video to add to what you're watching here. The portal of eclipse changes upon you. Oh, young Skywalker, it is your destiny. To what? To what? It is your destiny to release, surrender, and let go of that social group, of the way you make those career gains and earnings, of that dream, goal, or wish that you've held for a long time, and allow yourself to grieve it. This is your 11th house. Letting go of something, someone, some gathering of groups, a club you belong to. Sometimes it's just letting go of a dream. We have wish fulfillment dreams and desires, a 11th house wish, and you've outgrown it. You're kind of moving toward the expansion of the 5th house. Some Scorpios are getting ready to have babies, by the way, but also you may be wanting to birth a baby business, a baby book, a baby art project. Your muse is in expansion mode in the 5th house, as well as romance, sex, and fertility. But letting go of those 11th house matters can be also letting go of the drive to be making money all the time in your career. We're earning money, being more successful. Mars will be going through Leo mid-April to mid-June, and some of you may make some significant changes in your work and career as a result of that. And that will follow the aftermath of a lunar eclipse, blood moon, full moon eclipse in your house of career earnings. So there's a change in the career looking very viable for you coming through our sky. Mars supports it. Some of you may want to change your career to a company that's in a different country, or even have a job change connected to foreign lands and foreign shores. And maybe with the Algol well star and shock and awe in the 7th house of significant other, sextiling the sun in the house of pregnancy, in the 6 months that follow, you're surprised to find that you and your partner are having a child, or your partner has some surprises in their life. You have it that can lead to more fun, romance, pleasure, and play between the two of you. Mercury rules this eclipse, and he's in the house of work, indicating something that's going on in your chart is definitely changing your work environment in the 6 months that follows this eclipse. And finally, you're in a kind of a chunky money inheritance jackpot till June 9th with Jupiter in your 8th house. And Jupiter's been here since last May, but then he retrograded. He only got back on track February 4th or so. So where will this jackpot comes from? It could be coming through your spouse, could be coming through your inheritances from a father figure or mother figure. I mean, there's chunks of money that could be coming at you in the 6 months that follow the lunar eclipse and up to a month before. And that's what I've got for you, Scorpio, because you've been feeling apparently wounded here in your health or work matters ever since 2019, the Chiron transit. And Mercury says, I'm going to help fix that, but we need to let go of the wish and dream or the hustle or the way we want to be successful in our career, grieve something. I have a feeling a good deal of Scorpios will abandon a career path sometime between mid-April and mid-June and move into something that's more muse inspired and fulfilling. It could involve the writing, social media. This is where the muse is sitting, that kind of thing. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a full moon eclipse, a blood moon eclipse that replicates the eclipse cycle of 2006 to 8, 1998 to 2000, 1990. No, oh my God, 1988 to 1990. And now it's back again. South Node is draining out your career down the toilet. Now, if you don't have a career, you're retired. It's like it's a decompression, a release, a surrender, a letting go of an identity connected to purpose, career, and reputation and social standing, maybe grieving the loss of that part of your life. The moon can mean letting go of something where you have, because it's a full moon, been fulfilled already. And now you need to complete this by surrendering and letting go. Virgo is the sign of the writer, but it's also the sign of health and communications, precision communication. So there's something you're releasing here. And you'll be releasing that energy all the way through till the end of 2026, really. So this is sort of a cycle that's just really kicking off, this portal to the Virgo energy. But you want to expand the fourth house, which is your home. So some of you might build a home, add a home, construct a home. Saturn's like the architect. You may find a new forever home. You may, Sagittarius, expand your focus on your domestic and private life. Depending on your age, this could be a retirement story, really. You may increase, because of the North Node, your focus on matters to do with your parents, especially your mom, in the next 18 months. And with the moon on the South Node, there could be a health challenge with a mother figure that occurs in the wake of this eclipse over the next 6 months, bringing your attention and focus primarily to the house of the mother, the North Node in the fourth house, with Saturn down there, also an elder mother or elder father figure. The energy of Jupiter witnessing this whole thing from the seventh house brings in the concept of legal matters connected to home, property, land, career, mother, and father being germinated off this eclipse for the next 6 months after. You could also note that you have the energy of Algol, the wealth star, on shock and awe Uranus in the sixth house of work and livelihood. And also because of the sextile to the fourth house, rental property. So leasing and renting property, buying and selling, maybe with Mars's support as well. So the purchase and sale of property and the lease and rental of property are big on your menu a month before and 6 months after this eclipse. But the shock and surprise in the sixth house could lead to an unexpected, surprising change in the work circumstance that has you letting go of a job or career settlement or setting or whatever. And maybe, again, you need to spend more time at home anyway, or with somebody in your home, especially an elder. So there's things like that going on here. You might notice as well that you want the muse to tell you how to be inspired in the way you earn money and to feel alive and inspired in the way that you create financial wellness. So if that hasn't happened for you at this point, the sky is trying to point you in that direction. And with Mars in the eighth house, witnessing the 10th house eclipse and the sun nodal axis in the fourth house, there's a vibration here about what you might want to accomplish when it comes to buying or selling real estate and mortgage as in banking and loans. And it could very well look, because of the lunar eclipse we had in September, by the way, and another Pisces eclipse coming up in the fall of 2025, that a lot of you are changing your home, but because you're actually selling a property. And of course, you still have the ever-present opportunity for the rental situations as well, until Uranus leaves that part of the sky full on in 2025. That's Uranus here. Oh, pets. And an unexpected chance to have a pet at home in the 6 months that follows this energy. Whew. Should I get a chocolate break or keep going? I'm feeling sugar low. What time is it? It's almost dinner time. Okay, let's keep going. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. Go back to 2006 to 8. Go back to, 87 to 90, 1990. You had South Node Virgo eclipses Capricorns through your ninth house. Did you lose your faith? Did you have a challenging outcome with a sibling too older than you? Did you have a failure of a third marriage? Did you surrender, have to let go of a teacher, guide, mentor, guru? Did you surrender or release things to do with foreign countries? Or did you spend time there and felt like you'd been there before? Those are ways that has played out before. Here it is again. However, with the asteroid grieve, you may be grieving the ending of a spiritual belief, a philosophy, a third marriage, the things to do with foreign lands and distant travels. Possibly in this configuration, the South Node is spiritual enlightenment. It's moksha energy. It's also attaining that enlightenment. And there's a blood moon eclipse in the house of God and temples and spiritual guides and monks and teachers and stuff like that. So you may be having a deep spiritual thing unfold March 14th, a month before, and up to 6 months after. Spiritual liberation energy, maybe. And I kind of wonder too, because the energy of Mars in the seventh house, cutting, ending, severing, snipping, alliances, situations that are with others, a business partner, long-term relationship partner, as Mars does do that in the seventh house while he flows to the eclipse in the ninth. Sometimes maybe travel, foreign country circumstances are separating you from somebody else. You may also find that with Uranus in the fifth house, you could have an unexpected, shocking, surprising bit of good fortune financially. It's a money star in a house of financial fortune through winning or lucky breaks in money. So there is the possibility of suddenly coming into some unexpected good fortune financially a month before and 6 months after this eclipse, but also becoming a grandparent with the sky moon in the house of grandchildren, revealing your new grandparent status and Uranus shocking surprises from your children in the fifth house. Some of you are like, oh my God, I'm going to be a grandparent again or for the first time. Jupiter is witnessing the eclipse, but he's in the house of work, health, and also debts, which is not too bad. He wins some money or something. But Jupiter once was good and true, if it comes to work, right, is a good question mark. Just keep in mind that there may be a question of good and true work connected to distant shores, far off lands, travel, etc. Now, lastly, the eclipse is being governed by a Mercury who's in the fourth house of home. A lot of Capricorns don't know where they want to live. They feel like an outcast. They don't belong. They don't feel like they're home in their home. That's been probably true for a lot of you since 2019. A chironic wound is here. Now, a lot of eclipses have been trying to heal that wound. And Mercury, as the master of the eclipse in your ninth house, could suggest that a foreign country could bring you happiness and a true home. That is a possibility. More so if you're floating IC in whole sign houses is in that fourth house. Otherwise, there may be matters from your childhood and you have a new intellectual understanding of them and you heal some childhood wounds, particularly wounds about your relationship to your own mother and how that has impacted your sense of faith and belief in a higher power or a sense of alignment with purpose. And by healing that childhood wound regarding the mother, you can align with the other meaning of the ninth house, dharma, purpose, etc. Aquarius. Here we go. Aquarius, I'm one of you. I'm a rising sign. This is for Aquarius, sun and moon and rising. Number one, you have to go back. Everyone should be remembering the past, 97, 87 to 1990. Go back to 2006 to 2008. And here we have, again, energetically, another cycle of eclipses rolling through your Virgo and Pisces axis. Go watch the longer video on that. It's already out, and it gives you more of a deep dive into the axis of change. But it's surrendering and releasing and letting go of your karma. in a way, because this is the most karmatic house. Mercury is the ruler of your karma in the third house of writing, communicating, social media, short distance traveling. Maybe you can write your stories. Maybe you can heal the chironic wound about writing, teaching, learning, online, social media. I've got a chironic wound. It's called thorns in my side. I just don't know how to let stupid people go. Now I'm going to be trolled on that. But sometimes it's just, I don't mean like being mean and angry and not too bright. Just the stuff that comes at me sometimes. I'm just like, what the F? So, yeah. So you could, with this energy, however, looking at Mars in a flow to the letting go of the chunky money too, not just karma, but the eighth house is like, living off your retirement funds, investments, spousal support money, or even just shared resources with a long-term partner. And the reliance on that is now no longer capable or viable as of January, as the South Node entered here. And so you're like, no longer able to siphon from that place the resources you need, but rather you must move towards the increase of your own money through your own energy, perseverance, discipline, and hard work. Saturn, Mars, trine, 6 and 2. You're here to prove to yourself that your hustle can make you wealthy. And it's not about the languishing on the savings account, investment portfolio, inheritances, spousal support, etc. If you try to do that, you will not be okay, right? That is contrary to the sky. With the moon, South Node, and asteroid Grieve in the house of death, you may literally have to grieve the loss of some mother figure. Okay, just going to tell you, the moon exalts your fourth house of the mother. And so maybe there's stories about the mother that are lingering from your childhood that you need to uncork. I always say people's material success, materia, mother, until you heal every mother wound that you can find. Your money stories are always challenged. South Node through the eighth house, moon. Last time this happened, I had the the clot in my retina, the blood clot. So there's a name for that. So I'm not going to do that this time. I decided there's no effing way. But it's not, it is a kind of thing where you could encounter some karmic health challenge. But what I like about this is that unlike in 2005, 6, 7, 8, Jupiter will move in June into your sixth house of health and give you divine protection. So keep that in mind. Also pets if you're looking for them. I kind of want to say that having Algol, shock, surprise, Uranus, wealth star, unexpected, Mars in the house of landlords and rentals and tenancies and pets, a couple of thoughts. Unexpected, shocking, surprise, pet in the home. Maybe one shows up, a rogue, fallen Mars, red draggled stray animal shows up on your doorstep. And next thing you know, you've taken it in. When? A month before, 6 months after. But also shockingly surprising, sudden, unexpected changes of your residential story based on your landlord situation, but connected to also your increase of earnings and money. So it's positive in that regard because you're increasing your wealth with discipline and perseverance and steadfast hard work, with Mars in your sixth house in his joy. And this could allow for a surprising opportunity to change your home. And if you're a tenant, that's great, but you never know. A full moon eclipse in the eighth house of banks and mortgages and the South Node just being karmatic may allow for Mercury, a purchase of a home in a new neighborhood. That's what Mercury would say about that. Mm-hmm. Healing your chironic wound around writing, neighbors, neighborhood that you've been encountering since 2019. And Jupiter witnesses this illumination from the house of children, fertility, pregnancy, creativity, and entrepreneurship. And Jupiter might say something like, oh, what could he say? You are going to have a baby, or your children are going to have a baby. Somebody's having a baby. Somebody's fertile. South Node lunation, reincarnating a mother figure from your past. Not kidding you. Yeah, if my daughter gets pregnant, it's my mother, and my daughter is my grandmother, and this stuff just gets like doth the cycle repeat, loop-de-doop-de-doop. You could give birth to something that is financially lucrative, but you need to do the hard work. And I'll tell you that once you get to creative entrepreneurial business energies or artistic endeavors. Once you get Mars moving into Leo, which is going to be mid-April till July, April, May, June, mid-June, you are going to be able to see the results of creative projects flourishing in ways you didn't expect financially and positively, I mean, in ways you didn't expect, especially if you're in the online world. Now, last thing I want to say to you guys about this is that, because the muse herself is in a flow, Urania, from the house of what we do in solitude to the actual moon and the north-south node axis, this is a good time in the month before and 6 months after to really tune in to your muse in the quietude of your solitude and your alone time and see if there isn't something this muse wants to do with Neptune and creativity and art and imagination and the online digital platforms that use videography in order to become more financially successful because you are muse inspired. That's what I'm getting. That's what I've got. Hopefully that helps. Finally, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. We have these eclipses on a cycle. I keep repeating that because no one listens to the intro anymore. It happens to be 2006 to 8 and like 87 to 1990, South Node eclipses moved through your marriage house. And if you were married, this was stressing your marriage out. If you weren't, you might have met a soulmate partner for a season, reason, or time, destined partners who show up in our lives during a South Node transit through the 7th. In my experience, it's less likely that it lasts. I find that after watching so many clients go through South Node transits in their 7th house, they meet a partner of destiny, a soulmate, a past life connection, but it's kind of for a season, reason, and time. And it kind of, when the node leaves 18 months later, things begin to fall apart quite often. Just saying. Now, the South Node is with Asteroid Grieve, and it's loss and letting go in the house of significant business and love and marriage partnerships. There is a lunation that says you're letting go under the light of an eclipse, and you'll understand the reason why. Your partner may also be letting go. Seeing the reason for the letting go. Under the blood moon of an eclipse, the completion, the revelation, the understanding about closure may be here for some of you Pisces people. South Node here could be the loss of the partner. Grief could be they're departing from this world. Now, please, if you're like, 25 and your partner's 28, don't think that. Like, maybe some of you are listening in your elderly years. Okay, I'm just suggesting, or your elderly partner, who knows? The surprising element, Algol, is in the 3rd house, and this moon could open up some kind of unexpected, shocking, or surprising developments, sort of like a little mini earthquake connected to your long-term committed love, connected to your home life, or to your residential neighborhood. Jupiter is squaring the moon from the 4th house of home. Jupiter brings bounty and treasure and financial opportunity, maybe through a spousal situation, maybe through a spousal separation agreement. You never know. Mercury is the lord of the lunation. Mercury sits in the house of financial matters and witnesses a house of shared resources. So for some of you, it's breaking up with a business partnership, a long-term marriage, maybe a month before, 6 months after. Mars is in the house of creativity, art, and children, and romance. Mars is often the lover when he's in his fall. And I think I've said this for Pisces before, but if you're in an unsatisfactory long-term relationship and you've been on the side having a slice of fun, this is involved in this eclipse, because then Mars is sitting here and he is applying towards the South Node, and it can be that there's a letting go of a long-term relationship because the demands of the romantic life and the side hustle are stronger, and you want to go in that direction. Oh, yeah. I would ask you to, if you have a sibling, one younger, that could be involved in this eclipse, and if it's a significant relationship, there may be surprising changes in that relationship. Finally, the moon is the mother in all ways, mother and mother figures. In the 7th house, it means a significant female in your life, but it can literally be your mother. And this is called the setting place with the South Node in Grieve. If you have an elderly parent or grandparent, I'll give you that with Saturn across the way. It would not be inconceivable this could lead to the loss of that grandparent or elderly female parent in your life in the 6 months after this eclipse or up to a month before. And therefore, use it as a proactive suggestion so that you can clear out any unresolved discussions, karma, any unresolved issues, any hurts, any kinds of things that you're holding back on each other. Clear it out, forgive and forget, love and love them up, because you never know. You've got Pluto in the house of death, here in the house of hospitals, I should say. Anyway. And I would say that ultimately with Mercury as the lunation lord, there's changes in your financial structures, healing some wounds around your long-range finances, connected to a spouse, a business partner, or a mother figure in your life. And with Venus, ruler of the house of banks, loans, but banks, mortgages, but shared resources with a spouse-like figure. A lot of that money seems to be coming off of relationship stories. Now, if you're single, of course, that's not true. You're just going to end up having some kind of destined fulfillment and illumination in a house of significant relationship, maybe engaging a bit of new passion. Be a little careful. Mars is in its fall. And some of you may consider this a opportunity for a change of your prosperity connected to you're expanding, guys. You have the North Node in the sign of you are changing your identity, you're expanding your footprint, you're serious, sober-minded, and realistic, you're fantastically imaginal right now, you're trying to make some of your dreams come true, and you're very mystical and very sensitive and very porous emotionally. And yes, you could get a karmic destined love story out of this. I'm not going to suggest you couldn't. You can. But you have to let go. Sometimes you have to release something for something new to come in, right? So if you're in a relationship that's not fulfilling, or you haven't grieved an old relationship, I have a Pisces guy friend, and I don't think he's gotten over the loss of his girlfriend, who's a friend of mine who died in a car crash 3 years ago. And so finding love when you haven't released the old grief, right? As a Pisces rising for that person, no, he's a Pisces sun, is a prescription. The fulfillment could be delayed grief and releasing the grief around the loss of a relationship, the loss of a mother, grandmother, mother figure in your life. And so once the releasing and the relieving is done, then you have space for the South Node to bring in another relationship in the next 18 months. Whew. All right. That's what I got for you. Hopefully that's useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe and help the channel grow. Recording on Sunday, February 23rd. My Patreon community gets everything early access, ad-free. They're getting it today. It is getting dark in Vancouver, Canada. I'm losing the light. Thank God for the ring light. It's so dark in here. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget, if you didn't catch wave, my Venus course is starting on March the 1st. I might leave the enrollment open for a few more days after if you want to sign up and you missed the chance to do so. But if you missed the first class, fine. I'm not going to let you miss the second. So there's replays available. There's a Facebook group. We're going to have fun. That's the whole point. I can't wait to do this class with you guys. I'm so excited to study and journey and learn and travel through this journey with all of us together. I'm using minor asteroids. That's one of my value adds, like Isis and Pholos. And I'm also connecting us really deeply to historical patterns of this Venus retrograde so we can make comparisons from our past. All right. Ciao, everyone. I'm kind of chilled. Have a wonderful day. Ciao, ciao.